Ladies and gentlemen, obviously you currently see us in the lobby, so we are starting a little earlier than usual, but you do get the point. My name is Jamie Perry, also known as JP by majority of the people in this lobby, and it is day 2 of Inter's Racing League pre-season testing for Season 8. It is another time period of showcasing drivers' ability, and it is day 2 of 3 this weekend, as Friday kicked us off in Bahrain, day 2 kicks us off in Jeddah, and then day 3 will continue us on into the next round of racing. I am not alone in the comms box this afternoon, this evening, wherever you may be in the world. Scotty, how are we on this incredible day of racing after what was another incredible show of performance of drivers in Bahrain?
That was a really good race last night, but yeah, thanks for having me. First time in the box this season, and should be an interesting one. We know how Jeddah, obviously fastest street track on the F1 calendar. About 95% of the time, you get a bit of chaos. Hopefully, we're in that minimal 5%, but guys got an eye in at Bahrain last night, so it should be interesting to see how these guys go. A couple of names that I don't quite recognise that they've come over from elsewhere, so looking to see how those guys compare against our best and brightest.
No, absolutely. As you can currently see on the screen, we have switched over to the team principals for Season 8. And what a lineup we do have. A few returning faces and a few new ones joining the fray. But overall, these are the team principals, ladies and gentlemen. That will be noting down all actions and racing and everything that does showcase itself in Bahrain, Saudi, and many more races to come this season. And this is the important one to look at because when it comes to draft night, these are the team principles that you need to be looking towards, and they'll be the ones looking towards the drivers for their lineups for Season 8. And as we switch over to the pre-season schedule as well, there you go. We have Hungary tomorrow on the 12th of January, and then going into week 2, we go more into Zandvoort, Kota, and Silverstone before the final 2 races at Mexico and Qatar. You have the calendar reveal and then the draft show on the 26th of January. So lots of exciting things coming up, including tonight for round 2 of preseason testing in Jeddah.
Yeah, definitely interesting calendar, 8 events for the TPs to have a look at all the drivers. We know how well or how important it is. Checkered, obviously, last season's overall TP. Yes, he got a couple of drivers in mid-season, but he actually got a decent haul of drivers at the start as well. Battle Cat, we know. I know he was more so looking at ultra consistency with his team, and yeah, there's definitely a few qualities that the TPs are looking at. And I guess we'll see how that goes when we do get to draft night in terms of what drivers are left in terms of where your placement is after the lottery. And yeah, it's going to be fascinating. Checkered flag, I can guarantee he'll be looking to go back to back. He'll want to go back to back in the RB once again. So we'll have to wait and see. It is going to be very, very interesting. So
And
Um,
oh, hello.
yes, I like. Just quickly, what do you, Scotty? What do you want me to do with Purple Snake? He's
uh,
not in the Discord and he's not checked in.
I don't actually recognise that name. So
It's a PRL driver.
uh, I will quickly jump into the other chat, JP. If you
Yeah,
give
all
us
good.
one moment, and we'll get this sorted.
All good. We'll go through past results while you go sort your business. Apologies for that, ladies and gentlemen. Just a minor interruption to the usual running schedule. But we're going to continue on here in Inters. Of course, there you have your calendar in the background. But let's have a quick little discussion about the race qualification that we had last time out. So around Bahrain for round 1 of preseason testing, we had Yusuf Goat picking up the win. Of course, that was after Websy picked up a 10-second time penalty, and that was in the Alpine. Unfortunately, Websy speeding in the pit lane, causing him to get that 10-second time penalty. But moving away from that, of course, he did finish in P1 on the circuit, and that is something that team principals will be noting down. And once again, we'll have a nice little look look at the team principals, that will be noting down that information from Red Bull all the way to Williams. Other drivers like Lord Mahavir and Oscar Piastri Goat had a fantastic battle on display throughout Bahrain, and of course fighting for the podium positions. It was Lord Mahavir who did get quite close to losing out to that P2 position because of the battle he was having with Oscar Piastri Goat, and Lord Mahavir will be returning tonight. However, not as Jarno Opmeer as we saw in Bahrain for round one. He now returns as Jake Benham. He's going through the entire esports lineup and changing his name as the preseason season continues to tick down. And you know what? We're all for it. And if at least we get some action behind him and drives like Jake Benham, then I'm sure no one will be complaining in the slightest. People like Quiet Cake had a good race coming through the field, and the Kick Sauber finished in P9, and Apollo Pepsi as well, finishing in P6, up 5 positions in the Mercedes for the Mercedes driver. I believe Apollo Pepsi has also returned, so we're going to have a few returning faces from round one, and there's a lot of new faces to keep an eye out for as well. People like Mighty Wombat, people like Junkyard Doggy, people like Bozzy, people like Chandler's as well, and there's a few other names that we'll need to keep an eye out for. Purple Snack as well, the American driver driving for the American team of Haas. So there's a lot of interesting names to keep an eye out of. We're currently still in the lobby, so we're just going to be resting in the 2 screens of the preseason schedule and team principals, but we are not far away, ladies and gentlemen, from getting going, and Scotty will be back shortly. Good to see Mash Jr. in the Twitch chat. Great to see you, mate. Hope you enjoy the stream this evening. We've made sure to put just as much effort as we do as usual. Let's talk about track information while we continue to have a little bit of a waiting period. So, circuit length of Saudi Arabia, it is 6.174 kilometers in length. We have 25 laps this evening. With corners, we have 27 in total, with the 27th being a good opportunity for a bit of DRS chicken. A lot of people you'll see braking early so they can get that DRS going down the long pit straight. It is, of course, the fastest street circuit on the calendar, so just be aware of that one. We have 16 corners to the left and 11 to the right. The pole position starts on the right side of the track, and we have 3 DRS detection zones. 1 out of the exit of turn 24, 1 out of the exit of turn 19, and 1 out of the exit of turn 27 before going into turn 1. The pit limit line is 60 kilometers per hour, and that pretty much sums up Saudi Arabia as a whole. Fast, technical, treacherous. It can be tight and it can cause a few incidents on circuit. Safety cars can happen at all different times, and it can be an interesting one to go around on. Going a little further down, time for tire info. Track for Jeddah, we have the C2s, the C3s, and the C4s, which means we're going right down the Pirelli range for the hards, mediums, and softs. We have the second softest softs and the second hardest hards, with the most middle mediums available. So, like I said, right down that middle range for the Pirelli tyres. It should be an interesting one ahead. In terms of strategy, it should be a one-stop this evening, with both plans that will most likely be put into effect being between the softs and the medium compounder tyres, with both pit windows being anywhere between lap 7 to lap 18, depending on the tyre that you start on. Of course, this is an exception if there is a safety car that does interrupt the racing at any point this evening. Of course, there are also going to be the tyre lifespans that need to be kept a close eye on, because the soft compound tyre only goes 15 laps before it starts reaching the puncture range. So there's going to be a lot of small and short pit stops for a lot of drivers who start on the soft compounder tyres. Meanwhile, the mediums can go the entire distance of the race length with 31 laps until puncture distance. So realistically, there's going to be plenty of action on display, plenty of strategic choices, and plenty of opportunities for the team principals that you currently see before you to note down and take a bit more information in, so they can make a more strategic and more knowledgeable and calculated decision on their driver lineup for this season. We're still currently waiting on Scotty, and I guess we'll give you a little bit of behind the scenes as we kind of wait. This is what we're currently looking at, ladies and gentlemen. A lobby with 17 out of the 22 people, just so you're not waiting and think I'm stalling for whatever reason. So we're just waiting on a few people, and then all green ticks will be away and we will be under racing conditions. But apart from that, we'll just be waiting for the time being Hopefully, all the audio sounds good. It does seem to be that, and it seems my entire summary has come back to Scotty rejoining the VC, and just a little far away from getting started here, Scotty, but plenty of exciting things to be looking forward to.
Well, hopefully we should be done underway very shortly. Apollo, hopefully he was having issues, so he had to leave. We kicked someone that wasn't checked in, so I think we're good now. We'll have 18 going. We've got the green flag ready now, so we'll hopefully see all 18 cars, hopefully with no issues. But unfortunately, a few people having issues with the lobbies, unfortunately, which is a shame. So. But at least we'll get some action on track now. Let's just hope that everyone's not warping out of the way and we have to do a reset. But fingers crossed.
No, absolutely. Saudi Arabia, 6.174-kilometer circuit. There are 27 corners in total, 16 to the left and 11 to the right, with the 27th, as we mentioned before, being a bit of DRS chicken hotspot. But it should be good action on display. It is the fastest street circuit on the Formula One calendar. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you've been waiting patiently and with a lot of hopefulness of getting into this. We are 18 minutes in, and finally we can switch over to the racing quality screen, and there we are. So just getting in now, a few people loading in, and then we'll be ready for qualifying action for what is 18 minutes of fast-paced action on circuit to see who can set the fastest time down. We were speaking with a driver before who apparently can go into the 127s around Saudi Arabia, which is easily Division 1 pace, Scotty. Are we going to potentially see that once again, or do you think it was a bit more of a boast of performance that may not be there?
Uh, well, if you said that 127, that's most certainly quick. But I actually did a pre-season race the other day, and we did hit a 27.6 in quali,
Wow.
and a couple of drivers actually hit that too. So I could definitely see it, and he's one of the guys that actually I hadn't sort of seen race before. But if it would not surprise me if they can do that. He sounds young too, so more young sweats coming up.
Mm.
And making slow guys like me falling down the field even further. But again, it's one thing to qualify well. It's another thing to actually make it through 25 laps of Jeddah. So we'll wait and see. But yeah, it should be a good one. And you can see some of the names on the left-hand side of your screen. And there's some names that you recognise, some that you may not from the Inters community. But yeah, should be interesting. Lord Mahavir. Obviously, he's Jake Benham tonight. JP, what was his last night? I can't quite
So
remember.
he's going through the esports the driver lineup, and he was Jarno Opmeer last night driving for Red Bull. So he's decided to go down a different route this evening, and apparently Mr. Jake Benham in the Mercedes is driving this evening, but it is just Lord Mahavir going through the grid.
Well, if it works for him, it works for him. So yeah, well, we'll wait and see how that goes. But again, Bahrain, obviously, it is so different from compared to Jeddah because the walls are that close. You've got the curves. You take one curve wrong, you find yourself into the wall. So it's very tricky to Bahrain. I personally prefer Bahrain, but Jeddah, it's just that extra challenge. So it should be very interesting to see if we actually have any crashes and retirements out in quali. Just trying to push that little bit too much to gain that extra half tenth to a tenth. And yeah, it should be fascinating as I'm looking at Farmer Sam. He's nearing the end of this year's lap to start the first flying lap of the afternoon.
And Farmer Sam was driving for McLaren yesterday for Bahrain for round one of pre-season testing. He switched to Aston Martin. He's got the throttle down, flat to the floor, and he's also used a bit of his battery as well as activating the DRS point. Of course, battery modes are a little bit different in F124. Instead of just setting it to hot lap and off you go, you can mess around with the overtake button if you do want to try and find a little bit more time. But of course, the overtake button does absolutely drain your battery to zero in no time. So it's about being strategic and when to use it effectively. And for the most part, they'll be sticking on the hot lap mode. But the Aston Martin continuing through the first sector, going through the first couple of corners, already through into 4, 5, and 6, and already onto the exit of now 10 as well. So he's absolutely flying at the moment, and this is what we were talking about being the fastest street circuit on the calendar, as he takes, of course, the purple first sector of a 32.379. But obviously, being the first one on a fast lap, it's what you expect. But behind, it seems as if it is P14 of the Mercedes of Jake Benham, who's done 4/10, nearly 5/10 faster in the first sector. So there's a few drivers absolutely blisteringly quick around Saudi Arabia looking to showcase their pace this evening.
Yes, Farm Sam, if I can find him, because I was on board with Lord Bahavir, and he's looking very, very quick at the moment. Give me Farmer Sam, yes. So pretty much one corner left to go for the Aston Martin driver, and it can be a little bit of a tricky corner this turn 27. You can either just break a little bit too early, go push a little bit too hard into the corner, but it was a nice corner from Farmer Sam. He will set our first time, and he does scrape it to the 27s. We see that sub 28 already, but I have a feeling that as we check on, no, Lord had to come into pit lane, he invalidated.
His teammate Mighty Wombat actually coming around the final corner, to be fair. Chandler's in the Ferrari, 27.993, so very close margins at the moment, and Mighty Wombat sets down a 27.899, so the first one into the 27.8, but just starts to show the difference in pace between some of these drivers. A few into the 28s, a few into the 29s, and a few into the 30s, so quite clear to see we're going to have quite a split in pace. Of course, this is to dictate who will go into Tier 1, who will go into Tier 2, who will go into Tier 3, and of course who will be chosen by the team principals. A few people lining up to go across the timing line. The Haas next across the line, but I believe that was the starter's lap time, and Donmore with a 32.59, Junkyard Doggy with a 29.751.
Yeah, and I'm just having a quick look at who's that. That is Letter P coming around the corner. The last corner, bit of DRS, fuel light flashing. It was an all-right lap from Letter P, 28.9, about a second off. Letter P had practice at this track a few days ago. Absolutely shocking in terms of trying to keep it out of the wall. So he'll have that little bit of practice that hopefully he'll be able to manage that a little bit better. But solid lap time. I was just looking at the time difference between Lord
Oh!
and...
Sorry about that. Arcade Gaming just spinning around, going into the barrier. I believe that is out of the exit of turn 18, and has now got some front wing damage to go along with it, says my Racing League tools, and he'll get that going once again. And he's
And
disqualified. He's reversed.
I was,
And,
yeah, he hasn't reversed. He's sort of moved backwards, or he's spun backwards. He's just rolled forward enough that the game's decided to disqualify him. He was just waiting for that gap that he could actually open up and keep going, but unfortunately that didn't happen. So Parquet will be starting the back of this field, which may not actually be a bad thing considering how turns 1, 2, and 3 can usually go on lap 1. So he might actually not be in a bad position. It might be inside the top 15 when we get to the end of lap 1. But I'll just shout out to Chandler's. He was actually the driver that we were speaking to beforehand, saying that he could get a 27, and he most certainly's done that. So he's one of the newer guys around. So yeah, interested to see how he goes on his second run and see how his race pace actually is. But solid effort from the top 3 already into the 27s. But Mighty Wombat looking strong earlier on. Seen him around ages, but it's been a while since I've seen Mighty Wombat around, so good to see him back, and yeah, coming out with the flyer.
Well, talking about a difference in race and quali paces, I've currently just on board with Chillpill and P15 as he goes through his lap. A PRL Aussie, by the way, in the Aston Martin, going through the first couple of corners, had to back out of it due to the spin that the V-carb of Arcade Gaming had, so he had to back out of that lap. And a bit of fighting happening between the Williams, and it seems to be the Aston Martin, a PRL Aussie, but Chillpill getting by without too much of a fuss and getting the throttle down as he now uses that battery and will get the DRS open. Now, to the point I was going to make before, for the difference between race and quali pace as Chilpool goes P5. We saw quite quickly in Bahrain when it came to going into the race. You see, of course, it was for pole position, it was Yusuf Goat who picked that one up, but then immediately he fell down to P4, and obviously everyone can have bad starts from time to time, but he just didn't seem to have the edge on Websy, and it seemed as if, and don't get me wrong, his race pace is clearly quite competitive. He didn't have the same edge that he had in qualifying, and a few drivers are probably a little bit more competitive and a bit more comfortable and confident with a lighter weight car, having barely any fuel on board and having brand new tires where they can just push as hard as they need to. So as soon as it comes to a bit more conservation and preservation, they start to fall away a little bit.
Yeah, and we know Bahrain can be so tough. We know Bahrain's so tough on tyres. Here, it's obviously it's a little bit better, except for maybe the softs that burn out quite quickly. But at least you can use the medium tyre around here, as we're seeing all that little bit of a touch from Lord Mojave on the last corner, just on the inside. But he's gone purple the first two sectors. Does he get pole? He doesn't, but he does scrape into the 27s exactly the same time as Chandler's. So he's currently on the second row of the grid. Lost a little bit of time in that last sector. But yeah, Lord Mojave showing pace for the second day in a row, and he's going to be right up there in contention.
Well, Mahavir actually lost time in the second sector from at least what my Racing League tools are saying, but he did go 2.5 tenths up in the first, and he was going purple, that's for sure. And unfortunate for the Mercedes driver, who just didn't seem to get the lap time he wanted near towards the end. But he's still right there, 27.993 is in the top four. He'll be looking to improve. There's still 8 minutes 58, so plenty of time still to improve in qualifying. Currently on board with Jetman. Game says he's gone purple in the second sector. In reality, the Williams currently in P11 does see himself going green. He's 2.5 tenths up, but is improving quite well at the moment, looking to improve on his current time.
Yeah, now half a second up. So if he can nail this final corner, if he's got the battery to burn in this last sector, could move himself up. Probably needs to find another couple of tenths, and he can jump just inside the top 10. Wasn't too bad of a last corner, bit of DRS. He doesn't quite have the battery. He's going to run on him slightly, but he actually goes top 7. He finds 1.1 seconds. Actually, a very nice last sector, half a second improvement again. So, Jetman showed plenty of pace at the end of last season as well, when he raced a couple of times. And good to see that his form's still up there. His pace is still up there. So, looking forward to see how he goes in the race.
Polar Pepsi currently 2200s up on his time in the first sector. He'll be looking to improve a little bit further than that. Of course, we know the McLaren driver does have pace of his own, looking to potentially improve in terms of tiers and also maybe switch in terms of teams as well. It does come down to the team principles on who they pick up and when they pick up, because of course, in terms of the draft, there is a order and there is a selection. Big spin for Apollo Pepsi and a big snap. He does correct, but a big loss of time to follow in pursuit, and Apollo Pepsi will need to back out of that one. He'll be preserving his battery, looking to potentially go again, but if he has degraded his tyres too much, and right now on board it does look like he's got 4% on the degradation side. He's allowed a Red Bull by, and the McLaren slowing down to potentially go again.
Yeah, it was just that it looked like he just went slightly a bit too deep, tried to overcorrect it, and then obviously just went into that spin. On board with Wombat, he was pretty much equal in the first sector. I missed his second sector time, but if he's got any improvement, this will give him just a little bit more breathing room up the top. He doesn't have, he's only got 4/400ths of a second. Does he improve?
Wow.
He most certainly does. He finds another 10th and a half, and that's a 27.7. That gives him some margin. But I just switched to Farmer Sam. He's 3.5 tenths up. So if he can finish this lap, he'll find himself on provisional pole. He does have a bit of ERS to burn as well. Farmer Sam, can he go provisional pole? He does. He finds an extra 300ths, and he goes pole 27.682. We've got 6.19 left on the clock. Great lap from Farmer Sam. Mighty Wombat, I have a feeling he's got a bit more time left. It's going to be a battle between those two, unless we see Chandler's and Lord Mojave pull some more time out, and it's going to have to be a decent chunk now.
Well, realistically, if Farmer Sam wants to find any further time on the board, his best bet is going to be in that last sector. He lost a tenth out in that third and final sector. He was roughly 3.5 tenths up and then went down to 2.5 in that final sector. It was enough to pick up a 27.682, but Mighty Wombat will be taking notes on where he could potentially improve and where he can beat out against Farmer Sam. So it does seem as if turn 27 in those final technical parts of the circuit is catching a few people off guard and costing them a little bit of time. So it's who's going to be able to be the best of the rest at the moment. Chillpill's a tenth and a half down through the second sector, so not really finding the time he would have wanted. So through the first, going into the second, it seems Letter P improved by 4 tenths of a second to a 28.513. So did the Alpine and P11 of Junkyard Doggy, who goes to 5.5 tenths of improvement down to a 29.2, and 4 tenths of improvement for P12 of Donmore with a 29.859. So improvements throughout the field. Clearly, the pace is starting to gain and increase, of course, as rubber has continued to lay down here on the tarmac around Saudi Arabia. It is a street circuit, so the grip is usually quite low at the beginning of the weekend, and as the sessions continue to tick down and roll through, that's when the grip continues to increase and come all full speed ahead in qualifying. Now, Jake Benham, of course, is Lord Mahavir, currently the Mercedes in P4, and I'm not sure if you see that, but that is purple in the first sector by 13 hundredths of a second. He is by such minor margins getting the fastest first sector, but now he is absolutely blitzing it through the second. DRS active, now going into turns 21, 22, 23, and 24 before getting onto the exit. Of course, this is one curving corner, but counts as 25, 26 before eventually going into 27. No purple in the second, but he is another 500ths up on his time around the final corner, getting a little wriggly on the exit, but overall pretty stable, good car control, and up to the line. What will the Mercedes improve to? A 27.637, and he does find the time he was looking for right near towards the end. Improvement of 45 hundredths. It's all he needed. It's a 27.637, and the Mercedes goes P1.
Yeah, this is going to be a fantastic final run for all these guys. Lord may actually not have have the time to get back in, so he's going to have to hope that was good enough for pole, because he won't make it in time. Farmer Sam, Mighty Wombat, Chandler's sitting in pit lane. Apollo out on his final run now on his outlap. So we'll see if he can mix it up and get into the 27s. Finns, one driver we haven't spoken about. We know how quick Finns is. Hasn't seen a lap time yet, so I'm interested to see if they'll just maybe start from the back, or if they'll only do one run in this session. Yeah, it'd be interested to see what he does. Obviously, different in terms of strategy, in terms of the tyre set, and if everyone's going to burn all their stock compounded tyres. We know safety cars can be freaking around here, so safety cars may alter the tyre strat, so we may see multiple pit stops, but we'll wait and see. But Apollo starting their final flying lap now, so we'll follow them on board and just see if it can just get into that top four. But he's got to find 3/10, and it is tough around here if you just push it that little bit too much, and you can just hit the wall and give yourself damage. So as that looked to be a little bit unsettled, but what does it say on the clock? Oh, it's half a tenth up as he comes to the turn 13 hairpin, and he's going to have to push as much as he can to gain a position as we come through. This section of corners can be quite tricky to absolutely nail it. He gets away from the wall. DRS, he's got quite a bit of battery left to be able to burn, as pretty much these are flat out corners, all important to get as close to the wall as he can. It was solid through there, as he'll have a bit of DRS, bit of ERS. One final corner left to go for Apollo Pepsi. Can he find himself up against the top four? As Lord has retired, so he's on provisional pole. Last corner from Apollo. He's got battery to burn all the way to the line. Can he find himself into the 27s? He
Oh.
most certainly can, and gets into the top 4 position. He's on the second row at the moment, but a lot of guys about to start their final run.
Fantastic effort from Apollo Pepsi, improved by 3.5 tenths into the 127s with a 127.869. He went purple in that third and final sector. He was mighty, but not good enough for provisional pole. Good enough for the top 4, as more drivers, I'm sure, will be looking to improve as we continue along here in Saudi Arabia. Plenty of drivers on a fast lap at the moment. Mercedes approaching the final corner. Mighty Wombat on an outlap, and his teammate retired from the session. Can't seem to improve any further than where he currently sees himself. Cam on an outlap, and the Williams in the first sector continuing to look to try and improve on where he currently stands. But at Ferrari reaching the final corner, I believe that is Bozzi down in P16. He is yet to set down a time. The first one we'll see will be a 31.427. That will only be P15 on the board, and with such little time remaining, this is probably it for the Ferrari driver. Aston Martin following in close pursuit. PRL Aussie getting going with his fast lap. 5-place grid penalty for the letter P due to contact made with Junkyard Doggy. Of course, Doggy retiring from this race. Cocorot in P10 for the Red Bull. Cam behind, trailing behind an Aston Martin as he continues to go around this Saudi Arabian circuit. McLaren coming around the final corner, and that's Apollo Pepsi coming back into the pit lane. Seems as if a Williams not chill pill on this occasion, but potentially his teammate, a Jetman, going into turn 27, flat to the floor, pedal to the metal. Is there anything that he may be able to improve upon? Goes to a 28.510, 2.5 tenths, P7, chill pill not too far behind. Red Bull of letter P finishes in P8, chill pill finishes in P6. Chandler's invalidated. He won't improve on his time. He'll finish on a 27.9. Mighty Wombat going into the final corner. A man we've seen so much impeccable pace from. Will the Mercedes be able to do it and go on to provisional pole? Currently sees himself a 10.5 up, down through the second, but he did what he needed to do, and Mighty Wombat gets provisional pole, 27.5. No one is seemingly able to compete against them. That is looking almost solidified, and it is. 2 invalidations in P14 and P15. It is Mercedes on pole position for Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, and shout out to Cam as well. P4 from absolutely nowhere. Got a great toe from Farmer Sam, who invalidated early on. But shout out Cam, P4 in the Alpine. I'm not sure if this is one of his favourite tracks, but that toe definitely helped, and that's P4. Wombat was a 10th up through the second sector split, so he managed just to hold that time gain, and it was just enough to pip Lord by 800ths of a second. Fantastic effort, and bugger all separating the top 3. Even Cam in that top 4 as well. This is going to be a fascinating race, and all important to get the launch off the line.
Did Lord sorry, no, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Never mind. Just looking at the wrong piece of data, but no, fantastic pole position by Mighty Wombat. P1 for the Mercedes, but not to mention it is a Mercedes 1-2, and once again solidifying the fact that we have got quite a lineup of drivers. Of course, Webbsy's not here this evening, but we saw a lot of his pace in Bahrain, and all these drivers taking a lot of time off over the Christmas breaks, coming back feeling a bit more rejuvenated and clearly not losing a single step of their pace. Mighty Wombat takes pole position. Right behind him is Lord Mahavir. We know how competitive Lord Mahavir can be in qualifying positions, but we also know he can be just as fast in racing conditions. He will line up aside along him on the left-hand side of the circuit, which will be the dirty side, but will there be an opportunity to potentially get past him going into turn 1? We will have to wait and see.
Yeah, exactly right. But shout out to Jetman and Letter P. Letter P, obviously, with that 5-place grid pen, really going to hurt him and drop him right back down in the bottom part of the 15. Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting race. And remember, 25 laps, especially around here, is not easy. So a bit of caution for these guys. Just make sure you get around turn around the first lap, and then when that sort of spaces out a little bit, then you can start making moves. But yeah, if you be a little bit over aggressive, you can find yourself in the wall, and your race ended early. So guys, I'm just gonna be a little bit wary of that, and then obviously tyre strategy as well in terms of we know how easy it is for an early safety car. Do we see a couple of these guys starting on a soft compound and trying to make their way through the field early on?
Absolutely, and if there is an early safety car, it might be going down that hard compound route. We'll have to wait and see. If there isn't, it's most likely going to be a one-stop between the mediums and the soft compound tyres. The softs do degrade quite quickly. It is the C4s this evening, but we should be seeing a pit window between anywhere between lap 7 to lap 18, depending on what tyre you start on, and should be an interesting one ahead of us. Of course, degradation will be high for some of these tyres. The pit crews are ready, however. The drivers setting their setups and driving strategies alike. We have 5 red lights. Team principals, take note. The lights go out and it's pedal to the metal here in Saudi Arabia. Good getaway by Marty Wombat. He's able to compete against Jake Benham, which of course is Lord Mahavir going into turn 1. On the outside line, it is still Marty Wombat who holds the lead and continues on from his position. Chandler's down to P5. Apollo Pepsi continue to try and contend in P6. Big amount of contact happening in the rear end of the field. PRL Uzi down to P17 and Jetman falling down to P18 in the Williams. And good start for a few other drivers like RK Gaming. Got disqualified. He's already up to P13. VCarb setting the laps alight at the moment, setting the corners alight, going apex to apex, corner to corner. Treacherousy not really a factor for him at the moment throughout the field as well. Chandler's goes up to P4, competing against GLX Cam, and racing well and truly underway here around Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, absolute chaos. It seems like someone just got absolutely drilled in the braking zone and half spun their car and sort of was just a blockade at turn 1. So a few drivers having wing damage, so they'll have to come in for a lap 1 pit stop, and you can sort of see that gap on the mini-map, just sort of how far they've fallen back. But it looks like everyone else has gotten through relatively cleanly. It's Mercedes 1 and 2. Farmer Sam Chandler's has gotten back in front of Cam, who's dropped to P5 and is under real pressure from Apollo. As we're nearly going to be 3 wide. Chandler's, does he go for the win? A bit of a lock-up. They all give each other enough room. Mighty Wombat, I think, sends Lord wide, and that allows Chandler. We're nearly going to go 3, 4 wide, potentially. Mighty Wombat sets the fastest lap. You see the guys moving down the start-finish straight. We're going to be Merc side by side. A little bit of rear locking from, I think that was Lord. It was... And they're still going to go side by side. You can't go side by side through turn 3. They don't. They give each other room. All but Mighty goes wide off the curb. Might have been a warning. So they're just sorting themselves out. Great racing and great to avoid contact from the top 5. But just got to be a little bit careful.
Yellow flag. We have Donmore. VSC deployed, and now everything slows down momentarily around this 6.174 kilometer circuit. Ladies and gentlemen, was action at an absolute high peak at the moment, and we had 4 drivers fighting away, and nearly 5 with Apollo Pepsi getting up to the rear diffuser of the Ferrari of Chandler's. It was the Mercedes going wheel to wheel with Mighty Wombat holding on to P1, and Farmer Sam getting a good bit of action. Luckily, no damage to go along through the field. However, a bit of information, there is front wing damage for Shining Swarm, RK Gaming, Cockkerot in P15 of, PRO Aussie to follow as well, and also Donmore, of course, who had front wing damage before retiring into the pit lane. So lots of people picking up a predominant amount of damage, which has brought out debris and now caused the VSC to be deployed. However, don't think action is too far away. The Delta holds us at this point momentarily, but we're back to green flag running, and what a place to do it just before you get DRS down the pit straight. The Mercedes lines up against Mighty Wombat. Farmer Sam moves up into P3. Chandler's falls back down to P4. The Ferrari looking to try and go back at him, but DRS just not seemingly being as strong as everyone's seemingly in a bit of a train at the moment. And Mighty Wombat in P2 loses position out to Jake Benham, who now takes the lead of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix for pre-season testing. Apollo Pepsi in P5 with a penalty against his name, and Chillpill all still quite close to each other as the top 5 continue to fight it out. The midfield also not separated by much in the moment. This is Saudi Arabia at its best.
Yeah, as I now saw Farmer Sam find himself into the wall, he got very close to it. Chandler's, I think, was definitely the most cautious on that restart, and that obviously cost him a position to Farmer Sam, but he's still in that top 4. That's what these guys need to do, making sure they do not lose the DRS from the car in front, because you'll just find yourself just dropping a whole bunch of time. So Apollo, always Farmer Sam, he cuts the track. That's a 3-second any day of the week. So Farmer Sam and Apollo already with a 3-second time penalty. I think Chandler's followed him, so he'll probably have picked up a warning as well. So early warning, so this could play out at the end of the race, and I think Farmer Sam was very close to picking up another warning there. But the top 10 still within DRS, but a couple of guys are very close to losing it. But it's still Merc 1 and 2. Farmer Sam in P3, Chandler's P4, Apollo just outside. Can he keep it? I think he will, but he's going to have to find a bit more speed to get to the front.
Well, the DRS train helping to assist each other, trying to break that gap from behind, and P5 nearly not able to contend. And what great action we're getting on display at the moment. Aston Martin on the outside line. Mercedes is going to get a perfect switchback, though. Braking early and now making the move around the outside, back to the inside. Mercedes back up into P2 now, and Chandler's in P4. The Ferrari right on the rear diffuser of the Aston Martin going through the first couple of corners, and the Ferrari looking to potentially try and make a move some point soon, but he doesn't have an opportunity. It's too tight and technical to make a move through this area. He needs the momentum and the pace on his side. He will get it on the outside line. Ghost Rider with a 3-second time penalty in the Ferrari. Now going into the next couple of corners. Aston Martin on the inside line. Ferrari kicking it a little bit. And now it is Aston Martin with the momentum back in his side. Mercedes breaking out a little bit from the gap that he had with Mighty Wombat. And Jake Benham 9.5 tenths away and just seemingly going to lose the DRS out. But is his teammate going to help him stay inside the DRS zone? Of course, this is a team battle, but it's also an individual showcase for the team principals. Ferrari Chandler's in P4 looking for the inside line going into the next couple of corners, but has to back out of it, and racing has never been tighter here at Jeddah. This is brilliant.
Yeah, really good action. The other reason the gap was so big, Lord had a big loss of traction out of the hairpin, so that's why he lost a lot of time. He managed just to hold it within DRS. That saved him. Not sure if Mighty Wombat sort of helped him to keep within there, or if Lord was just had a really good second sector, but he was very close dropping outside DRS. We got a yellow flag. There is contact between Bozzy, and you don't usually see damage there. We're going to remain green. Mighty Wombat picks up a 3-second penalty as well. As we've got Farmer Sam, we've got Chandler's as well. He'll have the inside for turn 3. Does he manage to avoid the wall? He most certainly does. So moves up into the top 3. So Wombat from 1st to 4th picks up the 3-second time penalty as well. So Chandler's and Lord Mahavir looking really good with the warnings early on, but this has brought the pack, or his Junkyard picks up a penalty as well. But top 7, this has really closed up the pack now, and these guys just... Oh, as Farmer Sam has a big lose, and Chandler's nearly drills into the back of him. Not sure if I saw debris there, or if there was just the just a little bit of a screen thing on my end, but it looked like debris. It looks like everybody's front wings are still steady, but that was very close to a collision. And I said guys had to be a little bit careful, but yeah, this has been chaotic from the start, and we've seen another 20 laps of this fantastic action.
No, absolutely. One of the circuits that really do try and measure up and showcase its ability. Jake Benham falling down to P2, of course, representing as Lord Mahavir. Chillpill down to P6 as Apollo Pepsi sticks on the inside line, getting the throttle down and foot straight to the floor. Chandler's going wheel to wheel with the Mercedes momentarily. A bit of a squeeze nearly onto the white line. Now they're going to get a perfect slipstream in tow. Aston Martin with absolutely no DRS. Mercedes trying to force a move on the outside line. Ferrari sending it back down the inside, and Chandler's still sticking there on the outside line. Another bit of a squeeze, but just staying inside track limits on the curb. And the Ferrari now looking to go up into P2. Clean racing for the most part. Another squeeze, and they're continuing to go wheel to wheel. They're not backing down for a moment. A big kick, and that is a spin and lifted into the air for a momentary amount of time. Chandler's falling down to P8, and just like how Mighty Wombat made the mistake earlier, Chandler's now in a very, very hard and difficult position to get out of. Completely out of control, unfortunately. Just snapped on the rear and collected by drivers behind, and now falls down to P8 further into the field.
Yeah, that was always going to happen going too wide there. You don't really see that. Amazingly, he hasn't got any damage, but the worst thing is he's now dropped outside of DRS. So maybe you might have to work with Ghost Rider and Vince to actually maybe try and catch that group back up. But the way Farmer Sam, the way Lord Mahavir, Mighty Wombat, Apollo's in there as well, the way these guys are battling, he might actually not have too much trouble actually closing back up. But we'll keep an eye on if Farmer Sam, he will go to the racing line. So Lord Mahavir takes the race lead, but again, the two DRS zones, one before the last corner, one after the last corner. We go side by side. Farmer Sam has DRS, but that's the thing. You make the move at the last corner, you'll easily get taken back at turn one. And thankfully for Lord, it's only one position. His teammate right behind him, Apollo, Chill Pill, Cam still in there as well. Junkyard doing a fantastic job in this fight as well. He's kept it clean. He goes a little bit deep there, and he's going to cost himself a lot of time. Chandler's 2.3 behind now, 1.7. But he's just, without that DRS, there's a lot of time missing from the Ferrari now.
And the Ferrari of Chandler's, of course, in P8, 1.4 behind Junkyard Doggy in the Alpine. Of course, Alpine in a 6-7 formation with Chill Pill currently looking to defend and also attack Apollo Pepsi ahead in P4. A lot of penalties spreading through the front end of this field at the moment, around 3 seconds for all of them. And something just to note, by the way, and I'm not really sure how this is possible. I don't know if Race League Tools are saying the same thing as you, but Shining Swarm apparently has rear wing damage. That might just be mine, but apparently...
No, that is definitely rear wing damage, so he's obviously backed it into the wall. Maybe you're after a spin, but he's obviously picked that up, and unfortunately that's going to really hurt for the rest of this race. So we'll have to keep an eye on him as Farmer Sam, Mighty Wombat. Oh, there's contact, and Mighty's around. So absolute chaos. One of the Alpines gets around, that's Junkyard. Cam gets involved into it. Chandler's moves up a couple of positions, but I saw the outside sort of camera shot, so I'm not sure if they got squeezed or they just were a little bit too hot into that corner on the inside, but not sure if they've got wing damage. It looks all okay from my end.
Yeah, no wing damage to be seen, so he's got off quite lucky there, but still, unluckily, he's fallen down multiple positions from where he was seen. Mercedes coming into the pit lane, he's now on a set of the hard compound tyres. He's boxed earlier compared to a lot of the other drivers, and the mediums will most likely be wanting to push it over to the soft compound tyres if they can go the distance. The Alpine of Junkyard Doggy now really being pressurised by Fins in the kick Sauber, and just not seemingly able to make a move at this current time, but he's really starting to get onto the rear diffuser at the moment. Unfortunate scenes for Mighty Wombat, who also does have a penalty against his name, of course, that 3 second that we saw before. Ladies and gentlemen, team principals will be really needing to take note at the moment about who can just, I think, mainly survive, but have that reliability as a driver. Try not to make any mistakes. Try and avoid the carnage that does involve itself around Saudi Arabia, and get the best race that you possibly can get out of Jeddah. Unfortunately, for a few drivers, team principals may be downgrading what they previously thought of him. And wow, what a move! Williams around the outside, absolutely not afraid to step off that brake and go directly down to the floor. Chill Pill, what a move up into P2.
I'm gonna say this three should have to work together to try and catch Farmer Sam, but it was a lovely move. He got it done, but obviously Lord did with a bit of DRS. Pill's gonna stay there. That opens the door for potentially Apollo, but doesn't quite do that. So we're gonna go side by side. Surely not through turn 3. It's gonna have to be the Wombs that backs out of it. Lord still actually cuts the corner. So we're still going to be very close together. We just managed to avoid it. We got a yellow flag, and that is Cam, who's had a moment outside turn 1 and has end plate damage, unfortunately. So we'll have to come in for the hung compound tyre with the front wing change. But again, great battling from these guys, but you can just see the time difference. It's now up to 2.6 seconds. So that great battling, it's cost them 1.1 seconds to Farmer Sam, who will be absolutely loving the clear air that he's got at the moment.
Absolutely, 2.7 seconds. That is exactly what he needs with a 3-second penalty against his name. So just starting to go in his favour a little bit better. He has the fastest lap of the race of a 1:30.125. But these three, for P2, 3, and 4, are absolutely fighting each other to the very end at the moment. Chillpill in P3 with no penalty against his name is about to lose out in position. 2, Apollo Pepsi behind, and Fins just wants a little bit more of the action that's happening up in front of him. He's going to stick to the inside line. He's going to swiftly make the maneuver against the Williams driver. Go down the inside of the McLaren. Go will to will against one another. Backs out of it due to the DRS benefit that he will receive, but unfortunately, due to the train, he's now going to make a move, Apollo Pepsi, into P2, and Finns may be able to pick up the scraps of the Mercedes, but ahead of him, not able to do so. Tilpill into P5 making a move around the outside. Chandler's trying to fight for dear life. We saw him fall down to P8 before. He's back up to P5 now. And the Scuderia Ferrari going into the next couple of corners finds the benefit up into the top 5 once again. And Finn's also sneaking into the top 4. So the fighting we're seeing between these three is bringing more drivers along from behind, closing the gap from behind and extending it from in front. Farmer Sam now 2.9 seconds out in front.
Yeah, and that's what he wants away from this carnage. But just remember, Finns as well, he started this race from dead last as he had a big snap out of the hairpin, just manages to hold it, but has Chandler's right on his rear wing. But thankfully, he'll still be with inside DRS. Chandler's has a bit of a moment, and he actually hits the wall as well. I don't think he picks up any wing damage, but he's under real pressure from Chilpill, who will look to get the move done but can't because both drivers have a bit of DRS. And I think Chandler's may have slightly less wing on that might be able to help him with the top end speed. But it's going to be Apollo again who'll be leading this train ahead of Lord, ahead of Spins, ahead of Chandler's, and should be an easy move for Lord down at the last corner as it's a late move for Chilpill side by side with the Ferrari, who just loses the rear end and has to slip in behind the Williams. So position swapping all over the place, and we got the letter P coming in. This might actually be a good call. Make the undercut early. Try and get the positions. As Farmer Sam's also coming in, our race leader. Does he come out in clear traffic? He most certainly will. So this is a great effort from Farmer Sam. He'll increase his lead even bigger. The worst thing that will happen now if there's a safety car or a VSC, which he's going to have to hope that we don't get one yet.
Absolutely, and the one-stop strategy in full effect at the moment. People deciding to go over to the hard compound tyres and go for an earlier pit stop, looking for the undercut to be a bit more of a successful one. Other drivers will be looking to try and stay out a little bit later, switching to the softs and re-overtake drivers that may undercut them on circuit to potentially regain positions or even go a little higher. Not to mention, of course, the C4s do degrade quite quickly, so that will be another thing to mention, and probably another reason that so many people are switching over to the hard compound tyres. McLaren of Apollo Pepsi now with a penalty against his name. Finns into P2, which is absolutely blitzed through the field. Have a look at this in terms of positions, ladies and gentlemen. Up 15. He started down in P17. He's now up to P2. He has done an incredible job to get into the position he's now in, and only 3/10 away. The battles continue, and unlike a lot of other drivers who may want to work together using the DRS to come together and try and close down the gap, they're just fighting against one another. They're just showcasing what they can do as drivers when they do battle and when they do fight hard, and they're doing that exactly around Saudi Arabia. Plenty of incidents that have occurred, but plenty of great magic moments as well. And now we have the Mercedes coming into the pit lane, making slight contact with the barrier as he goes in, and many more to follow in pursuit. So a lot of people now covering the undercuts that happened, but will the undercut be successful for Farmer Sam and letter P? Well, Aston Martin is almost guaranteed to get into P2.
Yeah, look at the track map already. He's already clear, and he'll have warm hards as well. So this is an absolute gift for Farmer Sam. Finch is going to be the one that gets hurt by this the most, and Mighty Wombat. Or as he's cut the track big time at turn 1, he picks up an automatic 3-second time penalty. But I was going to say, watch out for him because he'd be right on the back of this pack. But unfortunately, he's got 6 seconds worth of penalties now. And yeah, he's going to be on 4-lap hard compounder tyres, which won't matter too much, but he's on the back of this train now, so we'll see what he can do. But yeah, Farmer Sam, 3.4. Thing is, Jake has actually, Lord has actually broken the guys behind, so Lord can actually not battle anybody now and actually see if he can close up to Farmer Sam for this race win.
Absolutely, his whole entire focus will be more or less just trying to close in on Farmer Sam. He has 1 lap newer tyres. If that serves as an advantage, will have to come way later into the stint, more towards the end of the race, where it may have a slight advantage in comparison to Farmer Sam. Of course, the hards can go an absolutely significant distance in comparison to a lot of the other tyres. The C2s and C3s and C4s being used in the Pirelli range, so the C2s will be quite comfortable for many laps to to come. Finn's coming into the pit lane. Farmer Sam only 13 seconds behind. You spend approximately, in terms of pit time, roughly 17.5 seconds. And so Farmer Sam will swiftly make the move back into P1. And Jake Benham, of course, Lord Mahavir, going into P2 with Finn's coming out in P3, barely behind the Mercedes. So Lord Mahavir just sneaking into that position. But the cold tyres should be quite a difficulty for Finn's, as he will most likely get swooped up by drivers behind.
Yeah, and it's going to be this sector that he loses a lot of his time, so he's just going to make sure he tries to maybe just burn all his battery now, just to make sure that he gets DRS from Lord, and then obviously when his tyres sort of up to temp and that, then he can maybe just save that battery back again. But all important to do it, as you can just see, he had a little bit of a moment through there. At the hairpin, just not quite the temp, but he's 8 tenths behind, so he should be able to have DRS, which is pretty much most of the second half of the lap. So he's done a good job, and I actually thought he'd lose more time. So actually, that's a fair effort from Vince to actually great in lap. For him to be able to be still in this train, and he's most certainly in a shout for P2. And remember, Farmer Sam, 3-second time penalty, so if Farmer Sam can't pull away, we could still actually have a good fight for this victory tonight.
No, absolutely, and nothing to consider as well is he didn't chew up too much of his battery. Currently, Finns is on 73% for his ERS, so he's actually preserved it perfectly, and that is just pure race pace on display from the Kicksauber. He's currently looking to use the DRS, and maybe that potential undercut that happened is just going to fall away and dissipate in a moment matter, and now it is Finns back up into P2 as Jake Benham falls down back into the top 3 with letter P only 5 tenths behind. They don't need to battle at this time. They need to be working together, because otherwise they're just going to continue to cost themselves time from behind and just start to fall away a little bit further and further, and just not give them the opportunity to catch up to Farmer Sam. With that 3-second time penalty, Junkyard Doggy now unfortunately retiring on the circuit. That's another VSC deployed. Will we see a full-scale safety car? It doesn't seem so. And another one under Delta conditions. And actually, here's a new statistic. We've had more virtual safety cars than we've had with safety cars in terms of Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. We're currently at 3 compared to 0. So, interesting one. Maybe F1 has decided to go back to virtual safety cars now. But yeah, everything's slowed down under Delta conditions, and everyone can just have a very momentarily slow breath.
Yeah, I feel bad for Junkyard. He was having such a good race. Problem is, it was the turn 3 corner again. He's obviously turned in slightly too early. It's ripped his front left off, and yeah, really unfortunate for Junkyard. He was doing an awesome job tonight, and that's caught a lot of us out turn 3 around this track. It doesn't leave you much room, and unfortunately, that is Junkyard's job done tonight early, unfortunately. But as you said, second VSC, all the drivers picking up drive-throughs. It is Cam, and it is Apollo with the drive-through as well. He's serving it now, so good job. If there's a safety car straight after, at least he's got his drive-through sorted. So Cam will have to do the same. But really unfortunate from Apollo. That takes him out of the lead pack. Farmer Sam picks up a 3-second time penalty.
That becomes 6.
That's up to 6. The only thing that can save him is if we stay green till the end, and if this battle for P2, they still keep fighting each other. But this group has actually, they've spread out. It's Finns and Lord, letter P, just outside 1 second. So with this field spread out, if Finns and Lord work together, they can stay well within 6 seconds, and they can fight it out for the victory.
Absolutely, and it will be a fight on circuit for P2, and not to mention, of course, team principals will still keep that eye out for the fact that Farmer Sam will have the potential opportunity to finish in P1 on circuit. It does seem as if GLX Cam now retiring in the pit lane, unhappy with the fact that he got a drive-through after going onto the mediums on his newest stint, and does call quits for this session. Unfortunate race for him. It was good so far for the Alpine, and just isn't able to continue on any further, and it it is Lord Mahavir, who is currently only 3/10 away from the kick Sauber, as you mentioned. They can work together, use the DRS train to try and bring down that gap and fight it out for the virtual P1 position due to the penalties. And now it is Mercedes with DRS quickly and swiftly making the move, and that is what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, making it work as a team. 1:30, 1:25 is the new fastest lap set down by Lord Mahavir. Of course, majority of people want newer set of hard compound tyres on the C2s, but there is quite a differentiation between the field. You have Farmer Sam, who's on 5-lap-old hard compound tyres, and you have Finns, who's only on 3-lap-old hard compound tyres. And now at this point, it doesn't really matter, but as they start to degrade and wear away, 2 laps of a difference makes quite a large a difference in the long-term scale of it all.
Yeah, no, Matt, it was most certainly track limits for Farmer Sam. So it's just obviously that build up of track limits that unfortunately he's had it over the course of the opening 16 laps. So that's obviously bit him again. So he's up to 6. The 3 behind are penalty free. A couple of them have got a couple of warnings. But at the moment, they're still clean sheet at the moment as Apollo gets past Ghost Rider after serving his drive-through for speeding after that VSC ended. But Chandler's picking up a 3-second penalty, but he's recovered quite nicely after his big scary moment that he had in the first sector, as I'm still amazed he didn't actually hit the wall or get any damage. So great job from him as Finns and Lord swap position. Chandler's goes for the move on letter P as well. So swapping between before and after, and I have a feeling Lord is probably going to get this position back at turn 1. He most certainly is. So that is P2, and it is going to be Chill Pill ahead of letter P and Chandler's, as you got the McLaren coming in for a pit stop. Shining Swarm, who unfortunately still has carrying that rear wing damage, so obviously going to be just struggling and becomes a lap down.
Lots of movers and shakers throughout the field. Big snap by the Red Bull. Ferrari's going to go around the outside, and nothing that the Red Bull can do. Letter P falls down. Unfortunately, Lord Mahavir is now 1 step further away from picking up this victory with a 3-second time penalty. Now falls into the grace of the Mercedes driver's car, and Finn's just feeling a little bit more joyful and a bit more cheerful with the fact that he now has an even better opportunity to pick up this victory. Of course, Farmer Sam with 6 seconds worth of penalties. Jake Benham, also known as Lord Mahavir, with 3 seconds worth of penalties, and SFR Finns just lining up and waiting to potentially look for a potential move to make this move stick once again. Of course, it's movers and shakers throughout this field, and working as a team is Kick Sauber and Mercedes, and I'm sure the fight will still be on, but there'll be less confidence on the Mercedes side as that penalty pretty much takes them out of contention of picking up the victory this evening.
Yeah, and you just wonder if that sort of that changes focus for Finn's a little bit, just in terms of now he doesn't have to worry about finishing ahead of Jake. Seems like they're still working together. Obviously, Lord wants to get within 3 seconds of Farmer Sam so he can still nab a P2 potentially, but obviously 3.8 from the letter P and Chandler's, who's obviously having a great scrap along with Chill Pill. So obviously those 3 battling hard. That's sort of forcing them out of a podium position with the pace the top 3 actually have. So always Lord has another moment off turn 10. Thankfully, obviously, no issue there. Not sure, and I think he still kept it within track limits, so no warning either. But Farmer Sam's done a really good job. He's keeping that gap at 4 seconds. Obviously, he'll drop to P2 at the moment. He needs Finns to pick up a penalty. But I think Finns is just going to drive not ultra conservative, but just make sure that he stays maybe within DRS of Lord, and yeah, just not to make any mistakes to claim this victory.
Well, I mean, when looking at previous lap times, actually, what really intrigues me is, of course, the battles that have been taking place. Of course, they're working together with DRS. But last lap for the Mercedes of Lord Mahavir was a 31.031. However, for P1 of Farmer Sam, it was a 37.75. Now, the benefits of course, having clean air and a free track ahead of you is clearly showing. But it does mean that they need to keep working as a team, because any type of opportunity to allow Farmer Sam to pull that 6-second gap into fruition is just going to devastate the opportunity for a P1 for either the people on circuit in P2 and P3 of Lord Mahavir and Finn. So that's probably another reason why they're continuing to work as a team, because clearly it's the Aston Martin of Farmer Sam still having the pace on his side.
Yeah, and I was just sort of curious in terms of how people are running fuel-wise, because obviously you think Jeddah, you think multiple safety cars, but we only had the 2 virtuals, but I think everyone should be good as Lord. He picks up a penalty early on, and then straight away he picks up another penalty. He's either not liking these hards. He's maybe just driving a little bit too aggressively, but whatever rhythm he had, that's gone completely, and now he's got the same amount of penalties as Farmer Sam. But looking at Farmer Sam, that gap's all of a sudden come down to 1.3 seconds. So Farmer Sam's clearly had a moment somewhere, and Farmer Sam does not have the gap anymore.
Just having a look here, he's 2.5 seconds down through the second sector, so clearly sometime a mistake, and Farmer Sam now worth 9 seconds worth of penalties. That's going to see him drop down nearly to P6 at this stage, so the Aston Martin clearly struggling somewhere on this circuit, potentially the tyre deck starting to form, but realistically, around 8 laps worth of tyres, that's only around 9 to 10% in terms of tyre deck, so clearly Aston Martin just getting a false amount of confidence and causing a mistake to occur around Jeddah at the moment, and Jake Benham and of course Lord Mahavir getting a big kick going into turn 1, 8-lap old hard compound tyres, now worth 6 seconds worth of penalties, and of course, not to mention, it is very possible of just making mistakes around Saudi Arabia. As we mentioned before, it is tight, it is technical, it is treacherous. The whole point about it being tight is that the white lines are so close to one another, you can't make a single mistake, or you can see yourself go over it and pick up a 3-second or even more penalties that can stack upon each other. So Finn's in P2, due to the mistake that Farmer Sam had, there is absolutely no recovery drive that he can possibly make, especially after 9 seconds collected. So Finn's needing to make a decision here. He's almost being bump drafted by the Mercedes in P3, and the green and black car almost just measuring up for the perfect opportunity to strike.
Well, clearly Finn's has got the best opportunity just in terms of he doesn't have to fight these guys, and he's clear of penalties. He can fall back 5.9 seconds if he really wants to. He doesn't have to get into a scrap with the other two, whereas the other two, they sort of want to push him, sort of make him run wide, get warnings, get penalties, maybe in a little bit of a mistake with the wall. Oh, and there's going to be contact between Farmer Sam and Jake, and Farmer Sam slightly moved across on Lord and had nowhere to go. I think they've avoided contact, but that could have avoided damage, I should say, as we're going to go nearly 3 wide. Farmer Sam has a lunge down the inside. They're side by side. This is what Finns doesn't want to get involved in. They're still side by side. We're not going to go 3 wide. Finns backs out. Farmer Sam goes deep in at turn 3, doesn't open the door or doesn't allow the chance for Lord to get past. They sorted themselves out, but it's getting aggressive between Sam and Lord. We've known those two have had history in the past in other leagues. So once again, it's getting fiery between Sam and Lord. And I have a feeling if I was Finns, I'd just maybe back off about half a second to avoid the potential carnage that could happen.
No, absolutely. Incidents are a must around Saudi Arabia, and it could occur once again between the top two at the moment, and they're clearly just getting a bit shaky, and clearly that has absolutely occurred. Aston Martin losing the rear end of the car, big snap, gains re-control before going into the barrier, but he's down to P3, Finn's nearly collected in it, but a perfect recovery for Aston Martin, only 4.5 tenths away, but now the Kick Sauber gets a perfect open door, looking to turn the knob open and get the door to reopen the opportunity into P1. DRS is open. Aston Martin looking to go back down the inside of Jake Benham in P2. Farmer Sam now takes that position away. The Mercedes will get DRS, however, but so will Aston Martin. Practically no aerodynamic advantage for the two, apart from Finn's in P1, who now pulls away with 4.5 4.5 tenths separated, increasing to 5.5 and continuing to increase as they gain practically no momentum out of this. And Finn's with no penalties against his name. All he needs to do now is keep it clean and try and increase the gap from behind so we can avoid any further carnage. This is practically a race to lose in Finn's favour.
Yeah, exactly right. And at the moment, Chillpill will find himself on the podium as well, being that he's kept it clean. So he just needs to avoid track limit penalties, and he can be up there as well. Chandler's as well. If he can close up to the back of this pack, or at least just cut into that 4-second gap he has behind Lord, he'll find himself on the podium as well. So as Polo picks up a 3-second penalty for a straight corner cut, and I think Swarm does as well. So... and Finn's, he's nearly broken a second. So Farmer Sam and Lord, they have just not got the pace the last couple of laps. Maybe they've just overheated the tyres with sort of the battling that they have done. Farmer Sam does get DRS, so that will help him stay within the second of Finn. So he'll get it down the start-finish straight as well, and you can see how powerful it is. He's gained 0.4 of a second, so he will gain again down the start-finish straight. Not sure if he'll have a go at Finn's. It might be better if he just sits back, but he does get fastest lap, so that'd be a fastest lap point if he finishes the race in the real season. So he's obviously burned all of his battery. He'll now save it all, and then we'll see what he can do. We've got just over 2.5 laps left remaining for these guys, and it's definitely been a hell of a scrap. Great battle all race long. We're not quite done yet. As I said, I see a final chapter, and it could be between Sam and Lord, but we'll have to keep an eye on it as Finn's leads by 0.7 of a second.
I have a very good feeling that a new fastest lap will be set by a certain Red Bull in P10, now up to P9 on the soft compound tyres. That's if he doesn't get any further traffic that may interrupt his fast lap. But out in front, very close margins at the moment. The time that was set down last by Finn's was a 32.68, improving on his time by nearly 2 tenths. And behind him, Farmer Sam setting down a time of a 30.086, so nearly 2 tenths quicker compared to the Kick Sauber. But clearly the fighting that's taking place between Lord and himself is not going to help him in the slightest, and of course the penalties all stacking up. Of course you have your on-circuit battles, but the penalties do count and they do affect your race results, and team principals will take note of that. They will take note, of course, where they finished on circuit, but the penalties will speak volumes on their overall reliability when it comes to track limits, and Finn's is absolutely the go-to driver for, I'm sure, a lot of team principals for this season. But around the outside seemingly is the Aston Martin, squeezing it open for him, and just a bit of contact being made, continuing to nudge each other along, really trying to force an opportunity at the moment, and braking early there. Jake Benham practically rear-ending the Aston Martin. This is getting very, very harsh at the moment, and clearly a bit dangerous for both drivers, as they're both tussling in for at least on circuit P2 and P3, but they're braking late and early at different points, switching around to different parts of the circuit quite late as well. They're clearly just looking to try and mesmerize the drivers in different ways and look for the perfect opportunity.
Yeah, well, this is giving Finn's the win, 2.8 seconds up the road. He now just needs to crawl to the line, and he'll claim victory from P17 on the grid. Pretty much a last to first being on the back row. But yeah, it's going to be Farmer Sam and Jake. Oh, there's not a brilliant gap there. That was opportunistic at the very least. He saw the gap. Farmer Sam closed it. I was waiting for this to happen. Farmer Sam has wing damage now. He'll probably finish. He's only got 1 lap left. I'm just hoping he doesn't do anything stupid. But yeah, the door wasn't really open. I don't know if it was a late move from Farmer Sam, but we might actually have some. I know it's only a.
Into the barrier. Farmer Sam has crashed out on purpose.
Yeah,
and
that's frustration. As I said, that was any other opportunity that shouldn't have happened. Yeah. So I feel bad for Farmer Sam. I feel like both drivers sort of had their moments in that battle. And unfortunately, that sort of spoiled this race a little bit, unfortunately. But it's going to be Finn's. who will easily claim a race win. Lord picks up another penalty, so that's up to 9. So you're looking at Chandler's on debut and Inter's claiming a podium position, and Chilpill does what he does. He's kept it clean, he's kept out of trouble, and he's going to find himself on the podium at Jeddah anyway. But Finn's in the last sector now. He will claim this victory.
Lap 25 of 25, ladies and gentlemen. It is the final lap of racing here around Jeddah, here around Saudi Arabia. Of course, contact unfortunately caused Farmer Sam retiring, and Jake Benham, also known as Lord Mahavir. Opportunistic moves at best, and sorry to put it in a bad tone, but lots of harsh and dangerous moves on display. But out in front, it is the complete opposite. No penalties to his name. Clean, reliable racing at its best. Team principals noting it down and taking note for one of the better drivers this evening. He will take victory in Saudi Arabia. It is Finns who wins the Jeddah Grand Prix. It is Jake Benham who will come home in P2 on circuit, but Chandler's will quickly switch that away. Chilpill will move up into P2. Chandler's on debut here for Ferrari gets a podium. My God, what a race on his side. And Finns, I mean, round of applause for him, coming from P17 to win the Grand Prix. That is how you get it done. That was simply a spectacle to watch. The letter P not able to take fastest lap at any point. Farmer Sam still holding on to it. 4-lap old soft compound tyres continuing to revolve around the final couple of corners. But this has been quite a spectacle. At points, it has been quite a dangerous race to watch. And at points, it has been absolutely incredible battles on display. It is classic Saudi Arabia. And once again, Inter's performing to the best of their ability across the checkered flag. Goes letter P. No fastest lap to follow. But wow, what a race.
Yeah, and a certain Ferrari TP already eyeing up one of his drivers. But shout out to Chandler's P3 on debut. He said his time when he was chatting to us beforehand, 27s. I thought, yeah, that's quick. And he had a scary moment, but he had pace and he kept with the group until sort of a little moment. But yeah, shout out to him. Shout out to our top 3 as well. Not sure who the game's going to give driver of the day. I think it's definitely Finn's.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to give my driver of the day to Finn's as well. 17th to 1st. And he drove smart as well. He was aggressive a couple of times to get moves done, but he wasn't overly aggressive. He picked his moves. He kept it clean, and a fantastic effort from the Sauber driver. And we know Finn's was a little bit unlucky last season in terms of a couple of the incidents he got into, but he looks like he's kept his pace up, and if he's wanting a full-time drive, that's one of the drivers that TPs are definitely going to have to look at.
Well, they spray the champagne, the bubbly, and they all start to get a bit soaking wet, I'm sure, in the Middle Eastern country of Saudi Arabia. Of course, to the east, you would have Qatar and the UAE, but here in Saudi, it has been played to perfection for the Kick Sauber driver of Finns, who picks up the victory, and to follow in P2 as I have to deal with this communicating with online services thing. Thank you, EA. I'm trying to get the timing sheet, you assholes. There you go. We got Chilpill in P2 in the Williams. We got Ferrari of Chandler's on debut for IRL picking up P3. I can see Battlecat in the Twitch chat quite eagerly wanting to pick him up for Ferrari, and I don't blame him in the slightest. He looks good in red, and he's clearly competitive, and a lot of unreliability on the driver side for a few of these guys. Plenty of penalties on display, plenty of incidents, a few VSCs played out in Saudi, and that's going to play quite heavily in the decision making for these team principals. So don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We got interviews up next, but quite a race. And you get to see the brand new screen made by the IRL team, also known in brackets me, for the interviews screen. Hopefully you guys enjoy it, taken exactly from the design of what Scotty did for the waiting soon screen. But let's get into Discord, see if we can get some people into the interviews room. I believe a lot of them are in the general chat. Having a look real quick. So looking for Finns, we're looking for Chill Pill, and we are looking for Chandlers, also known as Jake. So just looking to get them into the interview room, and hopefully we can have a good little discussion with them about their race and what unfolded from their side. Because I'll tell you what, that was absolutely chaos at its finest, but great racing action at the same time. It was well and truly a diverse race with many different magical moments and madness at the same time, ladies and gentlemen. So, just looking to potentially get some drivers in. Right. Apologies for the wait, ladies and gentlemen. It won't be too long.
Yeah, it was a great drive from a lot of the blokes. Obviously, a couple of heartache stories. Junkyard as well. He was looking really good for a top 10. Cam as well. All undone by that drive through. And then obviously, while trying to serve it, picked up a 10 seconds. So that's obviously why he retired. Shout out to Ghost as well. Didn't really see much of him, but P7. Mighty Wombat after his moment came back to P5. Apollo after his drive through came back and finished P6. Jetman as well, shout out to him, P9 in Arcade Gaming as well, P10 just inside. Fastest lap did go to Farmer Sam, but if it was in season, he would not pick up that fastest lap point. And then drive of the day, definitely Finns for me. So yeah, definitely a great result from him. Obviously, normally he won't start from the back, so he would have been right up there. But that sort of Jeddah, you have battle packs that sort of fight constantly. You can, as long as you make your moves clean, which is what he did, can find yourself right up the front as well. So only two VSEs, and we did actually have 14 drivers finished actually, so only 4 retirements, which is actually good around Jeddah as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, just while we wait for anyone else to join the comms box, we do have our P2 finish of Chill Pill in the Williams. Mate, what an incredible drive that we got to see this evening. Of course, you kept your nose clean, avoided any penalties, and of course picked up plenty of positions from penalties ahead of you. So, how was it from your perspective? Obviously, a bit of a chaotic one that unfolded, a few VSCs as well. So, just talk to it from our talk to us. Sorry, words from your perspective.
Yeah, well, obviously that's my best result since using no assists whatsoever, which has basically been my goal for F124. And yeah, I guess it was just obviously I didn't think I was as quick as the others in front, so it was just about, yeah, as you said, like no penalties, no damage, just stay in the mix, and then hopefully, cars can just merge out the way. As that happened, I think that was a Ferrari and a Mercedes that spun, so that obviously, and Apollo had to pit as well, the McLaren. So it was just about staying, clean, out of contact,
Yep.
in the track limits, and yeah, nice PT. I'll take that.
Absolutely. Pre-season testing, of course, does not stop. We continue on with the calendar, with next up being the Hungaroring in Hungary. So, how are you feeling for that one? Technically, quite a challenging one. Of course, people nickname it Monaco without the barriers, more just on the track limit side. How are you feeling for that one? Is it going to be a little bit more tricky than Saudi Arabia, or do you think the slower pace, or I guess the more slower momentum you carry around Hungary should allow for a bit better racing on display?
No, I'd say it's definitely more tricky. Jeddah is normally like, I don't know, like my type of track, just high speed corners, more of an oversteery type of track. Of course, yeah, like as you said, Hungary is basically Monaco with no walls, so I think that just says enough about how difficult the track is. But I'll definitely say it's my weaker um, my weaker track. Jeddah's definitely one of my strongest ones, so yeah, it'll be tricky, but it'll be a good challenge.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Congratulations on the P2, Scotty. I'm sure you have some questions of your own that you'd like to ask our Chill Pill here, but yeah, congratulations on the P2. Kept it clean. That's exactly what you need to do for the team principles.
Yeah, and I can feel that in P9 from you last season in Inters at Hungary. So you still scored some points. So as I said, obviously it's just a pre-season race, but I think Hungary obviously very hard to overtake, and yeah, it's a matter of sort of survival. But obviously weather obviously could play a part of it as well. But yeah, that's next time out. But yeah, congrats on your race tonight. You were sort of one of the guys that kept it. One of the only guys kept it clean. You played it smart. You had a great battle with Chandler's and P at the end there as well. But yeah, fantastic result from you and podium position.
Cheers, lads.
And just to finish off here, Chill Pill, final question, but I guess moving away from Hungary, of course, the whole point for preseason testing to begin with, and that is, of course, the team principals and their decision on their driver lineups going into season 8 of Inters. So, if there was a team or if there was a team principal you'd want to team up with or you'd want to side alongside with for season 8, who would it be?
Hmm. I've not had a look actually. Just bear with me for 10 seconds. You know, I like Checkered Flag. He's a funny bloke. Obviously, I believe they were champions last season, so you know, if they're better, why not join them? You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, wanting to side along V Carb is another good one. Of course, if they have the experience and they have that championship gold, why not? Absolutely fantastic performance in on your side and an incredible race result. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Scotty, we had momentarily Finn's come into the V scene. Unsure if he's gonna have to, well, if he is gonna come back, but it doesn't seem as if yeah, plenty of time to stall, but I think we'll call it there for the stream. Pleasure having you in the comps box as always. Plenty of action that was on display tonight, and great commentator to have alongside. Always a pleasure to work alongside you.
No, thanks for having me, and same to you. And looking forward to seeing you back on the comms a bit more regularly. Obviously, after your break that you had at the end of last season, so good to have you in the box more times this upcoming season. But yeah, what a race! Fantastic battle that we saw. Obviously, a little bit hot under the collar a couple of times in that one, but again, Jeddah can always provide that sort of action, and it always gets intense. But yeah, no, it was a fantastic race to watch, and yeah, Hungary should be very interesting tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in once again for Inter's Racing League for preseason testing for day 2, for round 2 of Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. It has been an incredible one to watch. Plenty of dynamic and diverse racing on display, from the dirty moments to the mad moments to the magical moments. It has been a pleasure every step of the way, and we shall see you, not necessarily we, but we shall see you tomorrow for Hungary for the next round of racing. Thank you and goodbye.